What is a geisha? A geisha is not a prostitute or a sex slave or anything like that. A geisha is a performer. When I say a performer, I mean an entertainer. And the things that she is trained in are not sexual. She's trained in music, she's trained in painting, she's trained in poetry, she's trained in dancing, all kinds of classical art. That is what a geisha is. That is what a geisha does. It's high class, high society stuff. It literally means art person in Japanese. Now, it's a female profession. Now, they performed in people's houses, especially wealthy men's houses. But I know in modern terms that sounds like that they're hiring a prostitute. But you got to remember that when geishas were a thing, there was no such thing as television. And so people got really bored. So they had to hire people to entertain. And another reason why people might get confused is they're probably confusing geishas for oiran. Now, oirans had similar elaborate costumes, but their costumes were even more elaborate. Their headdress is even more gaudy, and what is up with that robe thing? That's not a normal kimono. That's it looks like a big blanket or something, you know. Also, you see that bow in the front? Yeah, that's a belt knot. Traditionally, on a yukata or a kimono, the belt knot is in the back, but not for an oiran, for obvious reasons. Yeah, you know what those reasons are. The geisha outfit looks formal, it looks modest, but the oiran outfit doesn't look like an outfit. It looks like Christmas wrapping, if you know what I mean. The geisha outfit looks normal though. It's a kimono. But the oiran outfit looks really stupid and ridiculous. Also, what's up with those shoes? Those shoes are really ridiculous looking. They look like something a lady of the night would wear even today. Also kind of looks like something a pimp would wear. So yeah, geishas were hired to perform. When I say perform, I mean play music, or paint, or recite poetry, or dance, or even tell jokes. You know, all like anything. A jack of all trades. The closest thing I can think of that we have is a clown, but clowns are just funny. Clowns aren't trained in classical art or music necessarily. Correction, clowns are scary. Skeletons are funny, because the world is backwards these days. And another, even more dark reason why Americans think geisha means prostitute is because of the occupation of Japan. Now, the occupation of Japan was certainly a good and justifiable thing, because Japan was doing horrible atrocities. And the occupation of Germany was also a good thing, for the same reasons. But unfortunately, during the occupation, there were a lot of perverted soldiers who would go to brothels. And at those brothels, the prostitutes would refer to themselves as geisha girls to sound exotic. Yeah, that's where the misunderstanding comes from. Because during that dark chapter of Japan's history, the actual art of geisha had basically died. But yeah, my fellow Americans, that's not on Japan, that's on you. It was you guys who slept with those prostitutes to begin with. And there's something else that's very similar. Have you ever wondered why we Americans only clean our backside with toilet paper and not bidets? It's because one of the first times any American had ever seen a bidet was during World War I in France. Yeah. Again, perverted soldiers going to brothels, and they saw a washing thing, a washing device. Yeah. They saw the prostitutes using the bidet and assumed it was only used for cleaning up after, So, bidets became seen as something dirty and nasty. But hold on. Americans, that's on you. You went to the brothel to begin with. There's nothing wrong with the bidet. So anyway, yes, geishas would be paid to entertain in the house. Or in their own places as well, geisha houses. And they were paid for how much time they were performing, how much time they were there. And how did they measure the time? They used incense sticks. So however many incense sticks burned out completely, that's how much they'd be paid for. It's kind of genius if you ask me. Now, were there instances of geishas having intimate contact with their customers? Most likely. But that was not something that they were paid for, and that was not what they were trained in. That would have just been something that they did out of their own volition, probably because they were in a relationship with their customer to begin with. But that's not their job. It was the job of an oiron, though. And some might say, well, why did they have such crazy makeup? They have really bright lips and crazy eye makeup, and they have white faces, completely white faces. What's that about? Well, you see, back in those days, they didn't have light bulbs. Houses were lit by candles and torches and lanterns and stuff. So the light level was pretty low, and it's theatrical. The white makeup was so that they would be easy to see because they're a performer. It's just like stage makeup, but no stage. It's at home. Picture this. You're living in old Japan. You're home from work. It's evening. You hired a geisha because you're bored. It's hard to see inside the room because all you have are paper lanterns with a little flame inside them. Light bulbs had not yet been invented. So the geisha has white makeup so she can be seen easily. The lantern light reflects directly off of her face. So they were basically entrepreneurs. They went to school to do it, geisha school, basically, which was run by older geishas, and they would learn the craft and they would become masters of it. All these different arts and stuff. And they would make money doing it. It was a profession. It was a legitimate profession. Not a profession in the sense of, that profession. They were self-made women. That's what they were. Or at least the closest thing you could get back then. And some might say, well, we have something like that in the West. It's called an escort. They don't claim to be prostitutes, but that's what they do. No, it's not the same thing. Escorts are not trained in anything other than, they're just trained to be there, supposedly, but they're prostitutes. Geishas, on the other hand, are actually trained in arts and crafts. Escorts don't do anything. They're just an excuse to have legal prostitution.